Hi, everyone. My name is Kerry-Ann Walsh. I'm a professor in education from Queensland University of Technology in Australia. I was one of the authors of the What Works to Prevent Online Violence Against Children report that was released by the WHO in December 2022. Our report covers online sexual exploitation and abuse and cyber aggression, and it sits underneath these high-level global strategies, the Inspire 7 strategies for ending violence against children and the We Protect Global Alliance global strategic response. And the work that we did sits in these particular sections of those high-level global strategies. I want to come out of the WHO report to focus on Asia and the Pacific for a moment, because I know why that is why you're all gathered in Bangkok at the moment. And I want to draw your attention to the Disrupting Harm reports. The Disrupting Harm reports are a group or a suite of 14 amazing studies that have just been conducted by UNICEF, Office of Research in Achenti, in partnership with ECPAT and Interpol, and funded by the Global Partnership to End Violence Against Children through its Safe Online initiatives. The reports cover 14 countries, 6 Southeast Asian countries, Cambodia, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam, and 7 Eastern and Southern African countries, Ethiopia, Kenya, Mozambique, Namibia, South Africa, Tanzania, and Uganda. Oops. The Disrupting Harm studies, amongst other things, asked children about their experience of online sexual exploitation and abuse. They asked children whether they had ever been offered money or gifts in return for sexual images or videos, whether they had been threatened or blackmailed online to engage in sexual activities, whether they had had their sexual images shared with others without their consent, or whether they had accepted money or gifts in exchange for sexual images or videos. And in the Southeast Asian countries, the reports showed that between 1% and 3% of children said they had experienced those things. But around 9% of children in Thailand and 20% of children in the Philippines said they had experienced those things. And that means that the countries are slightly different in what's occurring there. The children said that, or explained, that offenders can be known and unknown people. So the offenders were unknown mainly for children in Malaysia and the Philippines, but those children also said that although the offenders were unknown to them, the abuse or exploitation might have been facilitated by someone who was known to them. And the offenders were known to children in countries like Cambodia, Indonesia, and Thailand. And those known offenders might have been adult acquaintances, other children aged under 18, and family members. The children said that offenders had accessed them via certain online platforms. The most popular of those was WhatsApp, Facebook, and Facebook Messenger. Children in Thailand were also being contacted via Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. When children wanted to disclose what was happening to them, they usually chose a friend, particularly in the Philippines and in Cambodia. And sometimes they also chose a sibling or a caregiver. And that caregiver might have been a male caregiver in Cambodia or a mother in Thailand. Disclosure in Vietnam across the board was fairly low, and in all of the countries, children said they seldom used hotlines, helplines, and police. Going back now into the What Works report, we found similar rates of online exploitation and abuse in groups of children across the world. We took a deep dive into what methods might work for prevention of online violence against children. And we found that the strongest evidence by far lay with educational programs for youth and their families. And this is because educational programs have a much longer history. They've been implemented in schools for many, many decades, and the research evidence has accumulated over many, many years. The prevention programs have been studied with a whole range of different risks that young people face, with multiple forms of face-to-face violence against children, as well as online violence. And they've been shown or proven to be very effective with cyberbullying. In our report, we looked inside many of the well-developed programs. We carefully looked inside 56 well-developed programs, although we looked at a much broader range before we decided on those 56. Well-developed programs were those that had been conducted over a long period of time and had been evaluated more than once. And you'll see there on the screen that there were 16 programs that we found from Asia. I've just put a snapshot of some of those programs up on this next slide. They were programs like RPAN, CyberSafe, DigiWorld, Love 146, Responsible Netism, Safe Web for Kids, Smart Kids, and DQ World. What we found when we looked inside these programs was that many of them were focused more on general internet safety skills. They focused a lot on digital safety, or what we might call digital literacy or digital safety, teaching children how to keep their information private, how to decide safe and unsafe situations online, and how to respond when they might respond to bullying online. RPAN India is an interesting program in that it's a multifaceted program, and it looks at multiple facets in the children in a school-based program. It's a multi-component program that tries to reach many different members of children's social ecology. So before children receive the program, the teachers also receive training and the parents can access training. It's just one example. Across the board, the programs that we looked at tended to be a light touch on anything to do with sexual components. They tended to focus more on general internet safety and digital citizenship. Looking inside those 56 programs and across the broader range of studies that had been done on programs, we identified several components that were clearly evident in successful prevention education. They were things like multiple sessions. So multiple session programs are going to be more effective than programs that had only one single session. The more successful prevention programs were offered in multiple formats. They were youth interactive, and youth interactive means that children were active participants in the programs. They weren't just sitting passively and listening to information being delivered by a presenter in a lecture type format. They were engaged in discussions with their peers and with the program facilitators. They were doing quizzes, they were doing project-based work, they were doing artwork, they were learning songs, they were doing actions, they were watching videos, and importantly, they were practicing skills with each other. We'll come to that in a moment. Parents were involved in the most successful programs, and everyone in the school environment was involved. So teachers, parents, and even around the school communities, the families, the significant community members, the faith-based organizations, and the mental health professionals. And I mentioned before about skill building, and this is a really important light bulb moment for us in this review to understand just how important building children's skills are. On our to-do list going forward, we concluded that to take the field of online violence against children forward, we need to build on existing evidence-based models. We need to enhance programs, everyday programs, so that they align more with what we know that what works. We need to avoid siloed single topic programs, for example, a program that just might be about sexting, and make them more comprehensive for all forms of violence against children online. We need to understand just how effective cyberbullying programs are. If I was a school principal, I would have no hesitation in engaging a really a well-developed cyberbullying prevention program in my school. We need to understand that multiple and varied learning strategies and tools are needed. We can't just be delivering a lecture in a lecture hall to students. There's a lot of other activities that need to wrap around to ensure that children's learning is complete. That children need repeated exposure, so they need to have information repeated many times and with greater intensity and in greater complexity as they go through the school years. When delivering programs, the whole school needs to be involved. And there needs to be less focus on stranger danger and more focus on more focus on acquaintances that might harm children, because children can be groomed, abused and exploited by their friends and their acquaintances. In terms of teaching skills, there are a whole range of skills that can be unpacked in very effective programs, prevention programs, things like problem solving, assertiveness, how to disengage from tricky situations, empathy and perspective taking, seeing things from other people's points of view, how to regulate emotions so that we don't just explode and overreact to a situation, how to resolve conflicts so that it might be a win-win situation for both parties, how to help seek, and how to decide which helpers are most effective and which helpers should be trusted. And also bystander mobilization, and that applies to children, to teaching their friends how to help each other and how they can go together to adults to seek help. In terms of next steps, we think that we can make programs more comprehensive and integrated, and we need to improve the content and messaging in existing programs so that they have the greatest chance of success in preventing online violence against children. To do this, we might do things like bring curriculum developers together in forums to talk about their learnings, what they're seeing happening out in the field, and have them work together to improve their programs. We need to focus on asking children what works for them in focus groups, hearing children's voices, and helping children themselves help us to refine the messages that we deliver to them. And we need to evaluate online violence against children prevention programs with really rigorous research methodologies. I'll leave it there, but I hope to join you later on for the question forum. Bye for now.